I didn't know loneliness could make a sound. Not the loud kind. Not crying. Not calling out. I mean the kind of silence that follows you, even in crowded places. The kind that sits with you at the dinner table. The kind that sleeps next to you even when the bed is empty. When I came here, I told myself it was simple. Work. Make money. Send something back home. Just keep going. Just keep surviving. I thought that was all I had to worry about. But nobody told me that leaving your country also means leaving parts of your own voice behind. Nobody told me that the hardest part wasn't the language or the cold or the way your hands ache at the end of the day. The hardest part is the quiet. The quiet when you're surrounded by people you can't fully speak to. The quiet when you suddenly miss things you never paid attention to back home. Like the way the sky looked at 6 p.m., or how someone used to say your name, or the smell of the kitchen after dinner. No one warned me about that, and I didn't know how to explain it either. Because how do you explain missing something you didn't even realize was part of you? The truth is, I thought I was coming here to work. I didn't know I was also coming here to learn how to be alone. This is my story, not the story of success or glory or the American dream people imagine, but the story of the quiet, the story of learning to exist between two worlds, the story of missing a home that still exists, but no longer fits in your hands the way it used to. If you've ever felt that kind of loneliness, this is for you. Before I came here, I had a life that felt known. Not easy, not perfect, but known. I knew the streets. I knew the faces. I knew which stores smelled like fresh bread in the morning and which corners felt safe to walk at night. I knew where I belonged, or at least I thought I did. I had routines, simple ones, the kind you don't remember until you lose them. Waking up to familiar sounds, neighbors talking, cars passing by, someone sweeping the sidewalk. Those sounds used to annoy me. Now, I replay them in my head like a song I can't find anymore. I had people too. Family, friends, people I didn't have to explain myself to. People who understood my humor, my silences, my short answers, my long pauses. People who didn't need subtitles for my feelings. And I didn't realize how rare that was. Back then, I thought life was small. I wanted more. More opportunities. More chances. More space to become something bigger than what everyone expected of me. I remember the day I made the decision to leave. It wasn't dramatic. No big speech. No final scene. Just a quiet certainty in the chest. A kind of knowing that doesn't ask for permission. Someone once told me, if you stay, nothing changes. If you go, everything changes. I believe that. And I think part of me also believed I would return. After a year, maybe two. Like leaving was temporary. Like life would stay paused for me until I came back. I didn't understand that leaving is a door you walk through that doesn't open the same way when you try to go back. I told my family I was strong. I told myself I was brave. I told my friends I'd be fine. But the truth is, I didn't know what I was walking toward. I only knew what I was walking away from. I thought I was leaving behind small things. My street, my room, my routine. I didn't realize I was leaving behind the version of me who felt like they belonged somewhere. There's a before and after in every immigrant story. And before was full of things I didn't know I would miss later. The food. Not just the taste, but the way it felt to eat among people who understood the jokes at the table. The language. Not just speaking, but thinking without translating. The sky. Yes, even the sky. Because every place has its own kind of sky, its own kind of light. And home is not a place. Home is the version of you that doesn't have to try so hard to be understood. Before I came here, I knew myself, or at least I thought I did. But leaving showed me how much of who we are is built from the people and places that surround us. And when you remove all of that, you're left with yourself, raw, unstructured, unfinished. And that's the version of me who got on that plane. The version that said, I'll figure it out, not knowing that figuring it out would mean rebuilding myself from the inside out. The first thing I remember was the air. It was colder, heavier, quieter. Even the silence sounded different here, like it had weight. I remember stepping out of the airport and feeling like I had landed on a different planet. People moved fast. Cars didn't honk the same way. Faces didn't look back at you. They passed through you. Everyone looked like they had somewhere to be. I didn't. I was just there, standing with two bags and a heart that suddenly felt too loud inside my chest. I didn't know where to look. Up, down, ahead, inside. Everything was unfamiliar. You think you're prepared. You watch videos. You hear stories. You repeat to yourself, I'll get used to it. But nothing prepares you for the moment you realize you are completely unknown. No history, no reputation, no one who remembers you from childhood, no one who knows your laugh or your silence, or the way you hold your hands when you're anxious. You arrive, empty of witnesses. The first night was the hardest, not because of the place, not because of the bed, but because of the quiet. I had never heard silence like that before. It was the kind that follows you into your breathing, the kind that turns every thought into an echo. I laid there, staring at a ceiling that didn't belong to me, in a room that didn't smell like home, with memories still stuck to my clothes like dust I hadn't shaken off yet. I told myself, just sleep. Tomorrow will feel different. But tomorrow felt the same, and the day after, and the week after. It wasn't the language that made me feel foreign. It wasn't the food or the weather. It was the distance between who I was back home and who I had to become here. I tried to speak. The words came out slow, heavy, crooked. I felt like my mouth wasn't mine. The first time someone asked me to repeat myself, I felt something collapse inside me. Something small but important. A piece of the version of me who was confident when speaking. Sorry, what did you say? Those 5 words repeated over and over became a mirror. Every time I heard them, I felt a little further away from home. People don't talk about that part. They talk about opportunity, money, growth, new life. But they don't talk about the way you disappear a little every time you can't say what you mean. I started staying quiet. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't know how to say it the way I meant it. So I listened, watched, tried to blend in, tried to shrink myself so the world around me would stop feeling so big. I became a quieter version of myself. Not weaker, just quieter. Loneliness didn't come all at once. It arrived slowly, in the pauses, in the spaces between words, in the moments when I wanted to call someone, but the time difference was wrong, in the messages I typed and deleted because I didn't know how to explain the feeling. It's strange how you can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. I missed being understood without translation. I missed laughing without thinking. I missed not having to prove that I belonged somewhere. And I think that's when it hit me. I didn't just leave my country. I left the version of me who knew exactly who they were. And now, I had to learn how to be someone again from the very beginning. Work became the place where I disappeared and reappeared every day. The alarm would go off before the sun even thought about rising. Not a gentle alarm. The kind that feels like a hand grabbing your chest. The kind that tells you, if you don't get up now, everything falls apart. I used to wake up quietly, so I wouldn't disturb anyone. Not because someone told me to, but because when you're new here, you learn quickly that the safest thing is to take up less space. The mornings were cold. The kind of cold that doesn't ask for permission, the kind that simply is. I'd look at myself in the mirror before leaving. A tired face. Eyes that were learning to hide more than they showed. Hands that were already getting rougher. And I'd whisper, almost like a prayer, just go. You don't have to feel strong. Just go. Work wasn't glamorous. But I didn't come here for glamorous. I came here to survive. At first, everything felt like a test. Not just the work itself, but the silence. The silence of doing repetitive movements. The silence of being surrounded by people who didn't know your story. The silence of swallowing words you couldn't translate. I remember watching others joke around, laugh, talk fast. And I want to join in. I had jokes too. I had stories. But my tongue felt heavy, like joy needed time to translate. So I listened, nodded, smiled when it felt safe. And I worked. Hours blurred together. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. People think the hardest part is the physical work. But the body adapts. The muscles remember. The calluses form. The real battle is inside. It's the weight you carry in your chest when you realize you don't get to fall apart. Not here. Not now. Not when you're the only person holding your life together. Lunch breaks didn't feel like breaks. Just pauses. Pauses where you check your phone and see messages from home. Call when you can. We miss you. Come visit soon. Are you eating well? Are you okay? And you answer, I'm good, even when you're not. Because how do you explain that you're proud and exhausted at the same time? How do you explain missing a life you chose to walk away from? How do you explain being grateful and heartbroken in one breath? So you tell them you're okay, because they need to believe it, and you need to believe it too. There were days I wanted to quit, days when the cold seeped too deep, days when the silence felt too loud, days when I would have given anything to hear someone call my name the way they used to back home. But I kept going, not because I was strong, but because stopping wasn't an option. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply showing up again tomorrow. I learned things here, the kind that don't go on resumes. How to hold myself together. How to keep breathing when the world feels heavy. How to find dignity in work that others overlook. How to love myself even when I felt invisible. And slowly, very slowly, something inside me shifted. Not a big revelation, not an epiphany, just a quiet realization. I was still here, even when everything felt unfamiliar, even when my voice felt small, even when loneliness sat with me at every meal. I was still here, and sometimes survival is enough. The change didn't happen in a dramatic way. There was no big moment, no sunrise that suddenly made everything make sense. It wasn't that kind of story. It was small, quiet, almost invisible. It happened one morning, just like any other. I was getting ready for work, same routine, same silence, same tired body. But when I looked at myself in the mirror, something felt different. Not better, not worse, just different. I didn't see the person who left home anymore. I didn't see the version of me who believed everything would fall into place easily. I saw someone who had survived days they didn't think they could. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look away from my own reflection. I stood there really looking at the dark circles under my eyes, at the exhaustion carved into my face, at the resilience I didn't even know I was building. And I realized something. I wasn't just getting through the days. I was changing, growing, expanding in ways I didn't have words for yet. Loneliness hadn't broken me. It had revealed me. It had stripped away everything external, the identity I wore back home, the roles people placed on me, the expectations I tried to fill. All that was left was me, raw, soft, tired, but still here. And there was something powerful in that. A few days later, I heard someone laugh at work. Not a regular laugh, but the kind that fills a room. The kind that reminds you you're alive. I don't know why, but I laughed too. Not loudly, just enough. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to belong. I felt like I was allowed to. There was another moment. Small, just like the rest. I was walking home after a long day. Snow was falling, not heavy, just soft flakes drifting slow and quiet. I pulled my jacket close and stopped for a second. And I thought, I am still me. Even here, not the same version. Not the one who left. Not the one who arrived. Someone else. Someone in between. Someone becoming. That's when a shift happened. Not in language. Not in money. Not in circumstances. But in self-permission. I stopped apologizing for my accent. I stopped shrinking my voice. I stopped trying to erase where I came from. I understood something that took me a long time to see. I didn't lose myself. I was rebuilding myself. Loneliness didn't fade, but it changed shape. It became something I could hold instead of something that held me. And that was the beginning of not just surviving here, but living here. The world didn't suddenly become easier, but I started to understand myself inside of it. I began noticing the small things, the things that made this new place feel less foreign. The warmth of a cup of coffee on a cold morning. The sound of footsteps in the hallway before work. The familiar route the bus took every day. The same buildings, the same cracks in the sidewalk. The same stop where I always hesitated before getting off. These little things became anchors. Not home, but something like it. I started talking more. Not loudly. Not confidently at first. Just enough. Enough to say, I'm here. Enough to let myself take up a little more space. Enough to remember I had a voice. I stopped trying to sound perfect. I stopped worrying about saying things right. I let my accent stay, because my accent was proof of where I had come from. Proof that I had lived more than one life. It was not something to hide. It was something to honor. And slowly, like leaves growing back after a long winter, I found pieces of myself returning. Not the same pieces, Not the ones I left behind. New ones. Stronger ones. I started allowing myself to feel pride. Not for grand achievements, but for surviving the days that felt impossible. For waking up when my heart was heavy. For showing up when I felt invisible. For learning to say my own name with confidence again. I made small connections. Not many. Not fast. Just enough. A coworker who shared their lunch with me. A stranger who smiled and meant it. Someone who struggled with English like I did. And we laughed through the mistakes instead of apologizing for them. Little by little, the loneliness didn't disappear, but it didn't control me anymore. It became something I understood. Something I could sit with. Something that taught me how to listen to myself. There's a moment every immigrant has. A moment you don't notice until later, where you realize you're no longer just surviving. You're living. Not the life you imagined. Not the life you left behind. A new one. One you built with your own hands, your own strength, your own quiet endurance. I used to think belonging was something someone had to give me. A place. A person. A word of acceptance. But belonging is not given. It is grown. And I was growing. Even when it hurt. Even when I felt alone. Even when I didn't recognize myself. I was becoming the kind of person who can live in more than one world. Someone who carries home inside of them instead of searching for it outside. Someone stronger than they ever knew. I used to think I had to choose. Choose between the person I was back home and the person I was becoming here. I thought I had to leave one behind to fully live the other. But I was wrong. I didn't lose who I was. I didn't erase my past. I didn't trade one life for another. I carry myself here, even when I didn't recognize the shape I took along the way. Loneliness didn't just take from me. It taught me. It taught me the value of things I used to overlook. The warmth of familiar laughter. The comfort of being understood without having to explain every detail. The quiet reassurance of simply belonging. But also taught me my own strength. I learned I can build a life from nothing but effort and hope. I learned I can love myself even when I am tired, even when I am unsure. I learned I can continue without knowing exactly where I am going. I used to think home was a place, a city, a street, a sound, a kitchen, a certain taste in the air. But now I understand something deeper. Home is the place inside you that remembers who you are, no matter where you are. I still miss things. I still feel the distance. I still feel the ache that lives between two worlds. But the ache has softened. It no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like memory, like love stretched across oceans, like proof that my heart learned how to grow wider. I didn't come here for more money. I didn't come here for success. I came here for a chance to expand, to become the version of myself that could only exist outside the familiar. I thought it was just work. I thought it was just a job, a routine, a way to survive. But it was something else entirely. It was a journey back to myself, a deeper self, a quieter self, a self that learned how to belong even when the world felt unfamiliar. And maybe that's what it means to live in a place far from where you were born. To become someone who can hold two homes, two languages, two versions of themselves in one heart. Not perfectly, not easily, but truthfully. Sometimes when I walk home after a long day, I pass by a window where warm light spills out onto the sidewalk. Inside, I can see a family eating together, talking, laughing, existing in a way that feels familiar and foreign at the same time. And I stop, just for a moment, not out of longing, not out of sadness, but out of recognition, because I know that feeling. I know what it is to belong. I know what it is to be seen. I know what it is to have a place where your heart fits without effort. I haven't lost that. It just lives in a different form now. Some days it's in the sound of my own voice when I speak my native language out loud in the kitchen. Some days it's in the smell of coffee. Some days it's in a message I send to someone I love, even if they are far. Some days it's just in the way the wind sounds against my window. Home didn't stay where I left it. Home came with me. In my memories. In my habits. In my breath. In my way of loving. In my way of enduring. I didn't know loneliness would come with me, but I also didn't know strength would too. I thought it was just work, just a job, just a plan. But it was a journey back into myself. And I'm still on it. Still learning. Still becoming. Still here. And if you are here too, truly here, I hope you know you're not alone. We carry home inside us. We carry it everywhere we go.